Baruch Hashem. Today's daf yomi is Menachos daf Samachay Menachos 65, and we're going to begin on the Mishnah on 65a, where the Mishnah discusses the process of the Omer. Ketzad Hein Osin. How would they cut down the Omer which they used for the barley offering on the 16th day of Nisan? So how would they do that? So Shluchei Bezdin Yotzin Me'erev Yontov. The Shluchei Bezdin used to go out on the eve of Yontif, even before Pesach. And so what they would do is they would go out to a field, and they would take these barley, the amount of barley they need to cut, and they bundle it up, meaning to say pre-cut it, to prepare for the cutting. And it would still be attached to the ground, so that on Motzi Yontif they would be able easily to cut it. And so then the next thing that would happen is, what happened was all the cities that were close by to the place where it was actually going to be cut, Miskansos Lasham would gather there, Kadeshia Niktar Be'esikadol, so that it would be able to be cut in a huge Inyan, a huge matter there, so that all the Baitusin will hear about them, but understand that we don't agree with the Baitusin, that the rabbis don't agree with the Baitusin. Kimin Shech Shecha, once it became Motzi Yantiv, and they were able to start cutting it, Omerlan, then the person who was in charge there would say, Ba Shemesh, has the sun come? Omer, Hein, Ba Shemesh. And the people would respond, yes, the sun, yes. And then he would say again, Ba Shemesh and Omer Hein. And the people would say, yes. Magol Zu, he said, should I cut it with this sickle, Omer Hein? They said, yes. Magol Zu, with this sickle, Omer Hein. They said, yes. Kupazu, with this basket, should I gather it, Omer Hein? They said, yes. Kupazu, Omer Hein. They said, yes. B'Shabbos, meaning they should even cut it down on Shabbos. Omer and Shabbos Zu. They said B'Shabbos, when it was Shabbos, they would say B'Shabbos Zu, and this Shabbos and Omer Hein. They would say yes, Shabbos Zu with this Shabbos Omer Hein. Ektor, so they said, should I cut it? V'Heim Omrim, well, and they would say to him, Kitzor, cut it down. Ektor, should I cut it? V'Heim Omrim, well, Kitzor, and they did this shalosh bamim 3 times. I'll call davar v'davar for everything. V'Heim Omrim, well, Hein, Hein, Hein. They would say yes, yes, yes. Kol kachu. Why did they do this to such a degree? Because of the Baitusim, Shayu Omrim, Ein Ketzira Sa Omer B'Motzi Yontif. Because the Baitusim said, we do not harvest the Omer Motzi Yontif. The Baitusim, as we'll see in our Gemara, they were of the position that you harvested only on the first Sunday after Pesach. And so therefore, first Sunday after the start of Pesach. And so therefore, the rabbis wanted to make a big Roshem to show that the Baitusim were not correct, that Omer was supposed to be cut on the first day after Pesach, i.e. on the 16th day of Nisan, the first day after the first day of Chag HaMatzos. Who are these Baitusim? So the Mishnah and Avos, Rambam explains in Pirkei Avos, chapter 1, Mishnah 3, in his Pirush Mishnayos, that Antigonus Ish Socho said that do not be like a person who serves their master in order to receive a reward, but be like someone who serves their master not in order to receive a reward. And the Baitusim, and there was a man there, Baitus and Sadok, they were his students, and they took it to mean that there's no reward and punishment. And so they rejected Antigonus, and they went in their own direction. But they knew, says the Rambam, that if they completely attacked the Torah, then nobody would follow them. So they said, we don't reject the Torah Shabbat, we just reject the rabbinic teachings of the Torah. So they just attacked the rabbis. And these were Baitus, and they became known as the Baitusim and the Sedukim. And so they didn't accept the rabbinic interpretation that when it says that you shall cut the Omer Mimocharatz HaShabbat, that meant you should cut it on the day after the 15th of Nisan, but rather they thought it should be on the Sunday after the first day of Pesach. So Tana Rabbanan, the Gemara says, the Gemara cites a brayso from Megillas Tanis, which talks about those days that we're not supposed to fast. And these are the days you're not supposed to fast. And some of them, that you shouldn't eulogize. From the first day of Nisan until the 8th day, Itakum Tamida, because that's when the carbon tamid was established, And so therefore, Delo Mispah, those are days that were not supposed to be eulogizing. And from the eighth day until the end of Pesach, that is the time. Isosef Chag Shvuah. That's the time where the holiday of Shavuos was able to be established, and there was no more. They won the arguments, as we'll see. The law of Mispad, Mireish Yarchav Nisan. It took him to me. The law of Mispad. Why? What was the story that happened from the first day of Nisan until the eighth day that they established the carbon tamid? You can't eulogize. Why? Shayyatzuduka moment. The Sadducees used to say, Yachan misnadev umevi tamid, that an individual could even say, I'm going to donate and bring a carbon tamid. It didn't have to be the community. The Sadducees wanted to allow individuals to do it. My darush, and you can imagine, I imagine that maybe there was a fight. The rabbi said, we control the carbon tamid. We're the ones who have the supremacy in the base of Mikdash. And the Sadducees say, well, we'll bring our own individual offering. And they say, no, that's not allowed. What was the debate? My darush. So the Sadducees said, as a kevas achot taseh ba'boker, as a kevas hashini taseh bein arbayim. So that you shall bring one sheep in the morning, and you shall bring one sheep in the afternoon, in the singular. So Maya Hadrabe. So how did they respond? What did the rabbis respond to them when they defeated them? What was their argument? One of their arguments was, as Karbani Lachmi Leishai Tishmeru. Your carbon as Karbani Lachmi, and my carbon Lachmi, my bread Leishai Tishmeru. You shall guard it, meaning say in the plural. So we see from here that all the sacrifices, all the communal offerings didn't come from private gifts, but from what's called the Truma Salishka, from the collection in the temple. From the 8th day until the end of the festival is Osaf Chaga Dishvua. That's when they established the holiday of Shavuos, the law of Mispod, not to eulogize. Shayu Baitusin Omrim, the Baitusin argued, Atzeres Achara Shabbos. The Baitusin used to say that at Shavuos would always come out on a Sunday, because they said that the first day of the Omer always happened on a Sunday. So Nitba'u Lahem, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai v'Amar Lahem. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai decided to engage with them, and he said the following: Shotim, fools, minayin lachem. From where do you get this idea? So there was nobody who would engage in a dispute with Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, chutz mizakin echad, except for one Baitusi, Shayim Efatfeit Kinegdo, and he got into a polemic with him. But Amar, and this Baitusi said, Moshe Rabbeinu Olav Yisrael, Moshe Rabbeinu loved the Jewish people. He knew that Shavuos was only one day. And so Amar v'tikna achar Shabbos kadesh Yisrael mitangin shnei yamim. He wanted people to have a 2-day holiday. Otherwise, you're going to travel all the way to Israel just for one day. You get a 2-day pilgrimage. You get the Shabbos and followed by the Shavuos. In Torah, so Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, his response was, he said this verse: "Go of Nikrozeh achad asar yom nechorav derech har seir." That it traveled from Mount Seir to from Chorev to Har Seir, Kadesh Barnea, was only 11 days, meaning to say that they could reach from Mount Sinai to Kadesh Barnea in only 11 days, and yet it took them 40 years. The Moshe Rabbeinu, says Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai on top of 65b, if it's really the case that Moses, Ohev Yisrael, that Moshe Rabbeinu was somebody who loved the Jewish people, Lama Icharam Bamidbar Arba'im Shana. Why did he take them in the wilderness for 40 years? Now, obviously, we know they took there because of the sin of the spies. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was answering a fool in a foolish manner, meaning to say he was poking fun of him with a sarcastic manner. Amarlo, Rebbe, so the Baitusi said, Rebbe, B'kachata Potrani. He said, this is how you're pushing me away. I mean, this is obviously incorrect. That Moshe Rabbeinu didn't go into the land of Israel in 11 days because Moshe Rabbeinu took them because God told him to take them in a circuitous route. So Amarlo, So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, "Shota v'lote Torah shlema shalanu k'sticha b'teil shalchem." He says, "You're a fool. Get my Torah out of your mouth. Get the Torah of Hashem out of your mouth." Kasav echad Omer. One verse says, "Tisperu chamishim yom." One pasuk says, "You shall count the Omer for 50 days," which implies days and not weeks. And then another verse says, "V'kasav echad Omer shiva shavuos," 7 weeks that you shall count. And what's a week? Something that starts on a Sunday and concludes on a Shabbos. So which is it? Okay, tzad. Kan b'yom tov shechal yos b'Shabbos. Kan b'yom tov shechal yos b'emsa Shabbos. So if the Yom Tov comes, if the first day of Pesach comes on Shabbos, then the next day is a Sunday, and that's the first day to bring up the Omer, and you start to count. That'll be 7 complete weeks. But if the first day of Pesach comes in the middle of the week, that you begin to count the next day, then you do it on 50 days and not complete weeks. So you start in the middle of the week. So that's how he explained it. So now we have a simon to see other ways of defeating the Baitusi's argument, and this is Rabbi Eliezer, Sofer, Rabbi Yoshua, Mona, Rabbi Yishmael, Me'omer, and Rabbi Yehuda, Lamata, simon. So this is the way we remember these next 4 approaches, 4 distinct proofs to prove the Baitusim are incorrect. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu sha'akol na'im dvaro. Rabbi Eliezer says, Eino tzarach. There's another way to defeat the Baitusi's argument. Harei Omer, that the pasuk says, Tispar Lach, that you shall count for yourself 7 weeks. Sfira Tluya Bebeitin, the counting is dependent upon the court. Shehem Yodim, Shehem Yodim, L'Kadesh, not L'Chadesh, but L'Kadesh is the proper text there. That they know how to make it a new moon. So we're going to. It says Tisparach spiritually best in Shehem Yodim Kadesh Yom Tov. They know how to sanctify the first day of the holiday. So that's this. The Sphira is dependent upon the court. Is just basically a different gears here, so that's what I was just comparing them. So spiritually of Bezin Shem Yodim Lakadesh Yom Tov Yatzas Shabbos Bereisha. So obviously we're saying when it says Mimacharaz, so it says Tisparach, you should count. But if it's dependent upon the court, Shabbos is something that comes from the creation of the world, not from the court. Yatzas Shabbos Bereisha Sfiras of a Adam. So it's obviously not going to be the day after Shabbos because that's counted by every person, not by the Bezdin. Okay, next approach is Rabbi Yoshua Omer, Amra Torah Manei Yamim. The Torah says count 50 days, B'Kadesh Chodesh, and then sanctify the moon. So this is in general, the Torah tells us count the days, 29 days and 12 and a half hours, and 12 hours and 44 halakim. So the Torah tells us to count the days of a month, Manei Yam Kadesh Chodesh, Manei Yamim Kadesh Atzeres. And then also count the 50 days, and you have Shavuos. Ma Chodesh Samach V'Aso Nikar. Just like Chodesh, just like when we count the new moon, there's a simon to tell us when we're supposed to start to count. Meaning, say the 29th day of the month, which is the beginning of the new moon. Afatzeres Samach V'Aso Nikar. Also, with respect to Shavuos, there's a specific day that we begin to count, and that is the day after the first day of Pesach, which is the 16th of Nisan. If you're going to say that Shavuos is counted from always starting on a Sunday, then it's not suddenly recognizable before it. So that's their argument. That's what Rashi explains. Rabbeinu Tam says, just like Rosh Chodesh, next to its arrival, we could tell when it'll be Rosh Chodesh. Meaning, say, we know when it'll be Rosh Chodesh because immediately when the moon is covered up and it's not visible, we know that there will be a molad the next day. So to Shavuos, there needs to be a recognizable simon when you will see the moon when it comes. And if the day of Shavuos is always switching around in the months, then it won't be recognizable. A third approach, this is Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Yishmael Omer, we're going to compare it. Amar Torah ve Omer bePesach. The Torah says, bring a carbon Omer on Pesach, u'shtei lechem be'atzeres, and bring the 2 loaves of bread on Shavuos. Mala on regel, just like the 2 loaves of bread, it's a regel, tchilas a regel. You bring the carbon at the beginning of the holiday. Afghan regel tchilas a regel. You bring it at the beginning of the holiday, and if the Pesach would be, and if you would bring it on a Sunday always, and sometimes that would be, is if Pesach started on a Monday, that could be the last day of the holiday, so therefore it wouldn't work. It says Shabbos usvartam uchami macharas Shabbos, and it says nemer Shabbos lamata. And the Shtei Lechem, it also says Shabbos. It says ami macharas Shabbos. Ma'alon regel tchios regel samachu. Just like with respect to this. By the 2 loaves of bread, it is regel, regel samacho. Immediately after the 7th week is the beginning of the regel. Afghan, also here, with respect to the carbon omer, regel, regel samacho. That we're going to say that there's a festival, and immediately after that is the Yom Tov Rishon Shel Pesach. Meaning to say that there's the first day of holiday, and immediately after that is the bringing of the Omer. Okay, so now the rabbi said, Tan Rabbanan, says the Brisa, Usvartem lachem, you shall count for yourself, Shetei Sfiro Kol Echad Ve'echad, that every single person needs to count personally in order to fulfill the mitzvah. Mimacharas HaShabbat, what does it mean when it says the day after Shabbos you should start to count? Mimacharas Yom Tov, it means the day after the first day of Yom Tov. Awenu El Machor Shabbos Bereishis. Maybe it means the day after Saturday. Yossi Bar Yehuda Omer Arei Omer Tisperu Chamishim Yom. It says you shall count in the plural, which means Kol Sefiro Shatos Sofer Woyu El Chamishim Yom. That always when you count, it should be 50 days and not more. And just like so therefore, if Pesach will begin on a Shabbos, we start to count 50 days from the Sunday, which is the 2nd day of Pesach. So too, we should always count 50 days from the day after Pesach. And if you're going to say that you always start to count the day after Saturday, well, that won't work because sometimes it'll be 51. If you always start to count the 50 days on a Sunday, then it'll sometimes be more days from the 2nd day of Pesach. So that wouldn't work. Okay, we'll stop here, and God willing, pick this up on tomorrow's daf. A good day. Shekoyach.
All right.